Here we go, question 1. 3 identical squares are shown below and they have a side length of x units. We need to find the total area of the 3 squares together. Let's find the area of one square first. This square is x by x, so we could say that the area is side times side, or you could do length times width, base times height. And going back to our exponent rules, when you multiply letters, you are adding the exponents. This has an exponent of 1, this has an exponent of 1. So x times x would be x squared. So each one of these has an area of x squared. If I want to find the total, I would need to add the areas together. You are not doing anything with the exponents at this point. We are combining like terms. So if you have 1x squared plus 1x squared plus 1x squared, that means you have a total of 3x squared. Now how can we tell, or how could we determine if 3x squared is actually the correct answer? Well, we could use the calculator here. We can use STO. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick a random number, we're going to store it for x. We're going to type in our problem here. X squared plus x squared plus x squared. That gives me an output of 48. Let's see if our answer of 3x squared gives me an output of 48. And it does. So I know I'm 100% correct. Your answer is 3x squared. 2, what is the domain and the range? Let's start with domain. Domain is dealing with the x-axis here, so we're going to build some fences along the x-axis. Notice that it's a closed circle right here, and the fence starts at -1. So I'm going to put my fence at -1. It's a closed circle, so we're going to use the closed circle inequality sign, and we're going to cap that fence off. We're going to trap that graph over here. It's a closed circle, so we're going to use our closed circle sign, and it stops at 6. And since we're talking about domain, we're talking about the x values. For range, we are talking about how far in the y does it go. So let's build a floor. So if I build this floor, notice that it hits right here. It hits a closed circle. And the floor starts at -2 in the y. And then it looks like it goes all the way up. We could build a ceiling, and those are closed circles because it's hitting the graph. So we'll use our closed circle symbol. The ceiling stops at 5, and we're talking about the y. So this is how you would make your domain and range. 3, what is the domain? So we're talking again here, what are the x values that this graph travels through? So we're going to graph this guy with our calculator. So let's graph x squared minus 2x minus 3. We're going to graph this. You're going to get something that's going to look roughly like this. And so it looks like it goes, and we're going to put arrows on the end. And we talked that if you put arrows on the end of something, you cannot build a fence. You cannot fence that guy in, because the arrows mean that the graph can break through that fence and keep going forever and ever. And if you can't fence it in, we say that is all real numbers. Again, if you can't fence it in because of the arrows, it's all real numbers. 4, a student bought concert tickets online. The cost is C, and T is for tickets. The question is asking if the student spent $920 on tickets. So $920 is going to be on this side of the equal sign. That is your cost. They're asking how many tickets over here on the other side did they buy. Well, instead of looking at it or writing it in terms of C and T, I'm going to write it in terms of X and Y. And if I think in terms of an XY table, $920 represents C, or represents the Y value, $920. The question is asking what is the corresponding input that goes here for X that would give me an output of 920. The beauty about this is that since we have it in Y equals, we can use our Y equals button. Let's make our fraction. So we'll say 49x plus 19, and then we'll drop down and do our 0.5. To gather data from an equation, we're going to go to the table. These are my inputs and outputs. We're going to look for an output of 920, and if you look, it will give you a value of 9. In fact, if you took 9 and you plugged it in here for x and you multiplied it by 49, watch, I'll show you. 49 times 9, if we added 19 to that, and then we turn around and divided that by 0.5, notice we would get an answer of 920, so they bought 9 tickets. Our answer is 9. Which of the following best describes domain? We're talking about the x. In fact, none of these answer choices over here are correct, so we're going to build our own. So we're looking at the x-axis. Let's build some fences. We're going to build a fence right here. Notice that it's an open circle this time. We're going to use our open circle symbol. It does not have the equal sign with it. And it looks like it's counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's counting by ones. So it starts at 1 on the x. We're talking about the x. And let's cap this guy in. Let's build another fence over here. Notice that's a closed circle. And it goes through 2, 3, it goes through 4. So this is a closed circle. So we're going to use our closed circle symbol. And this would be our domain. 6, the length of a rectangle. Let's draw a rectangle, or try to. There we go. It has a length of 2x plus 3, and if you look over here, it looks like it has a width of 3x minus 5. What is the perimeter? Remember, when you have perimeter, you add up all the sides. So we're going to add this up. There are 4 sides to a rectangle, so we need to add these 4 sides together. Now there's some other ways to do this. You could add these 2 sides here and multiply times 2, but we're just going to go ahead and just combine like terms here. So let's combine 2x plus 3x, that's 5x, plus another 2x is 7x, plus another 3x, that gives me a total of 10x. Now let's combine our numbers. If I do 3 plus 3, I get 6. If I do minus 5 or negative 5 minus 5, that gives me negative 10. Well, 6 minus 10 is negative 4. Our answer is B. Now, if you remember one of our previous problems, how could we tell that answer choice B is 100% correct? Well, what we could do is we can take all of our sides and put them in the calculator. It looks like, well, now we have 10 stored to x. So that's what we're going to use here. So let's type in our problem. 2x plus 3. So we type this guy in right here. Plus, let's add this side. 3x minus 5. So plus 3x minus 5. Plus, let's add this other side here. 2x plus 3. 2x plus 3. Plus, we're going to add the final side over here. 3x minus 5, 3x minus 5. We're going to hit enter. It's going to give me an output of 96. So when x is 10, it gives me an output of 96. Let's see if this is an equivalent output of 96. 10x. Here we go. 10x minus 4. Do we get 96? Yes, we are 100% correct. Our answer is B. A taco costs $1.49 and some curly fries, it looks like, cost $1.19. They say Jack can buy X tacos, so I know the letter X is going to go with $1.49, and Y order of curly fries, so this will be Y. Which inequality could be solved to find the number of each if he spends at least? So if you're not sure what at least means, again, remember, pretend like this is a sign and there's a little line and it says you must be at least this tall to ride the rides. That means you can be equal to it or you could be greater than. So we need to be greater than or equal to 15. So whatever he decides to do has to be greater than or equal. This is what he's doing over here. And so now let's put everything together. $1.49 times the number of tacos plus $1.19 times the number of curly fries. All of this has to be at least or greater than 15. So you go through and you just match it up. Your answer is D. Here we go. 8. A police officer bought X dozen jelly donuts for $2.59. Okay, so you have this guy here, this police officer. We'll give him a mullet because he's in Texas, and he's gonna buy some donuts here. All right, there's a dozen. They're all packed in there. They cost $2.59 for a dozen of these. He paid with two $20 bills, so he had two $20 bills, so he had 40 bucks. If he received more than $5 in change, right? So it says right here, he received the correct amount of change, and it's more than $5. So he bought a certain amount of these boxes of donuts, and whenever he paid, he ended up getting more than $5 back. So let's just kind of look at our answer choices here. They have two numbers, 13 and 14. So if I take $2.59 and I multiply it times 13 boxes of donuts, so let's pretend like he bought 13 boxes of these. He would have spent, and we'll do this in red, if I take what he has and subtract what he spent, well, I have to do $40, he would get back $6.33. Is $6.33 and change more than $5? Yes, that is true. But is that the maximum number that he can buy? What happens if he bought 14 boxes at $2.59 a piece? He would have spent, now he would have spent $36.26. If I subtract these two guys right here, would he get more than $5 back? Would that be more than $5 back? No, that would be less. So the maximum number, at most, the most he can buy is 13. Can he buy equal to 13? Yes. Can he buy less than 13? Yes, because if you buy less than 13, you're still going to get more, than $6.33. So your answer is B. Which graph represents the inequality? We're going to see if we can do some elimination here. If you look at the symbol or the inequality sign, it's a greater than or equal, which means it is a solid line. It will not be a dashed line. So C and D are gone. And if you look at the number in front of y, it's positive, which means at the very end we're going to divide by a positive. If you divide by a positive, the sign stays the same. And so we would say that this is greater than or equal, greater than meaning you shade above. And if you look, there's only one answer choice B, that has a solid line and where they shaded above the line. So 11, the graph of the quadratic function is shown below based on the graph between which two values of x is a 0 of f located. So the 0 is just a fancy way of saying what is the x-intercept? Where does it cross the x-axis? Well, it crosses the x-axis at 2 points. It crosses here and it crosses here. So let's narrow it down. It looks like both of those are off the grid. So let's zoom in and take a look a little bit further. All right, so we're zoomed in. Here's our origin. It looks like this first x-intercept crosses at, it looks like -½ Or in other words, it looks like it's in between -1 and 0. Somewhere in between -1 and 0. And then it has one more little x-intercept over here. Let's count that. -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's in between -5 and -6. So -5 and -6. Let's see if we have an answer choice that matches up one of these x-intercepts here. Well, it's not F. Between 0 and 1 would be over on the right-hand side. It didn't cross over there. Between -3 and -4, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. That would be right here. It didn't cross the x-axis there. Between 1 and 2, that would be over here on the right side. But if you look right here, between -5 and -6, we have one of those points, which is this location. So your answer is J. Just remember, 0 is a fancy way of saying where does it cross the x-axis. 12, what is the vertex of the graph of the quadratic function? So the vertex, remember there's two types of vertices. There is a maximum vertex, which is the highest point, and then there's a minimum vertex, which is going to be the lowest point. So anytime they give me an equation, I'm going to graph it in y equals. So I have x squared plus 6x plus 3. I'm going to graph that. And if you look, there's a vertex right here. There's a couple things you can do. You can hit the trace button, and you can trace that graph all the way down to where it'll get you to the lowest point. And if you look, it looks like it's at -2.9. That looks like it's close to -3, so it's either C or D. So we can cross out A or B. And then in the Y, it looks like it's at -5.9999. That's almost -6. And so through a process of elimination, we can use trace and kind of just get it close. Or we could actually calculate this vertex. You could go second. We're going to hit calculate in blue, and it's a minimum because it's a lowest point. So So we're going to calculate a minimum. And then it says get to the left of where you think it's at. So I'm going to get to the left of where I think the vertex is. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to get to the right of where I think the vertex is. Hit enter. Asking me to take a guess now. And look, it gives me negative 2.9 repeating, which is negative 3. The calculator is saying, hey, it's really negative 3 and negative 6 for the y. So our answer is C. 13, determine the rate of change. Rate of change is slope. If they give you this table here, well, if they give me points and they're asking for the rate of change, I'm going to put those coordinates in L1 and L2 using stat edit. So here we go, stat edit. Let's put our x values in first, 0, negative 12. And then let's put our y values in, negative 4, negative 8. Make sure that they're input into the calculator just like you would see it from the table here. Now let's calculate our slope. So we're going to go stat, calc. If you look at number 4 looks like mx plus b, but the calculator likes to use ax plus b, and that's fine. And this is our slope, the letter m, or in this case it's going to be the letter a. The calculator will calculate that for us. So we'll go all the way down. It's going to calculate a letter a, or a slope of 0.3 repeating. You know it's not D, you know it's not A. If you look, it's positive. And if you weren't for sure, you could take 1 divided by 3 and you would see 0.3 repeating. Or you could take 0.3 repeating and you'd have to type that out a little bit and do math, frac, enter, and it'll give you your fraction. So your slope, or your rate of change, is B. 14, solve for the letter P. Do opposites. We're going to do opposites. So the letter P is on the left. We need to move everything to the right. So we're going to start with this negative y. Well, to move it to the other side, we need to do opposites. We're going to do plus y. Goodbye. X plus y is x plus y. And we're left with 6p on the other side. To get rid of the 6, our last step is to divide by 6. And we're going to divide everything by 6. And so we could write P equals x plus y divided by 6. 15, given the equation y equals 4x, so y equals 4x plus 6, what will be the new equation whose slope is 2.5 times? So we're going to have an original slope, and we're going to multiply that by 2.5. And then it's going to have a y-intercept that is 8 less. So we're going to subtract 8 from whatever the original y-intercept is. So let's dissect our y equals mx plus b equation. Our slope is 4. Our y-intercept is 6. So now let's do the transformation here. Let's multiply 4 times 2.5. 4 times 2.5. Our new slope is now 10. It's steeper because it's greater. And then we're going to do 6 minus 8. 6 minus 8 is negative 2. But that is not our answer. We have to write the equation. We have to put these two values back into y equals mx plus b. Well, our slope is 10. That's the number in front of x. Our new y-intercept is negative 2. And there's our new equation. What is the equation of a line? Anytime that you need to write the equation of a line and they give you the coordinates, we're going to use stat edit. So let's go into our calculator here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and clear the lists that we used previously. I'm going to tell the calculator, clear the list for L1 and clear anything in L2. So now when I go under stat edit, I have a fresh, clean list. I can input my information. Now, just because these are coordinates doesn't mean we can't put them in L1 and L2. Remember, your x values are L1 and your y values are L2. So L1, L2, this is L1 and L2. So we're just going to put them in as if we're making an XY table. So negative 6 and negative 7, that's one coordinate, and then 0, 5. We're ready to stat edit. We're looking for the one that is, the calculator uses the letter A, but that's fine. We know that the letter A is going to be the same thing as the letter M. And it's asking to write the equation, so let's get this information. And it looks like A is 2 and B is 5, so we're just going to plug those two numbers in. for A and B. So y equals 2 goes to the letter A, so it'll be 2x, and then 5 is positive, plus 5. Well, we could actually go into y equals, and we can put our equation in, and then go to the table, and let's confirm that. Let's see if our table on the calculator now has these two coordinates. Does it have -6, -7? Yes. Does it have 0, 5? Yes. So we are 100% correct. And you can do that when you're taking multiple choice tests too. You can test each answer choice, A, B, C, and D, and see which one comes out to be true. 18, I know 18 is a little blurry here. Which of the following situations does not represent a constant rate of change? So a constant rate of change meaning it has a slope, that it's going up at a constant rate. So I think of it as you're adding something over and over again at a constant rate. So let's look at that here. A child adds $2 every day. So it's plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2, plus 2. That's constant. A tutor charges $25 every hour. So it's 25 for the first hour, and then another 25, and then another 25, and then another 25. That's constant. Once a week, a baseball card collector adds 6 cards. So he adds 6, and then he adds another 6, and he adds another 6, and he adds another 6. So it's not C. So just by a process of elimination, it's D. What is the equation of a line that is parallel? Ooh, okay, so what does it mean if two lines are parallel? If two lines are parallel, you know that they don't touch, right? But they have the same slope. So I know that I'm going to have the same slope, and it goes through these 2 points here and has a y-intercept of -1. That's a lot. So we have an equation, an original equation that goes through these 2 points. Well, if this is our original and it goes through these 2 points, we don't know what the equation is for that. But guess what we can use? We can use stat edit. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to put this in L1, L2, L1, and L2. We're going to get the original y equals mx plus b. When we do that, we're going to take the slope and we're going to use it for the new equation, and then we'll just make the new one have a y-intercept of -1. So let's get our original equation here. Let's put in some points. So -1 and 6. Then we have another set of coordinates here, 5 and 2. We're going to go stat calc number 4. So here's our original equation, y equals, that's -0.6 repeating. -0.6 repeating is -2/3. That's our slope. And then we have a y-intercept of 5.3 repeating. If you go back to the problem, a parallel line has the same slope. So when we write our new equation, it will have the same slope, this guy right here, but this time it's going to cross the y-axis at -1. So we're going to change that y-intercept, and there you go. 20, there's actually not a correct answer for 20, but we're going to go ahead and answer this anyway. What is the equation of a line that passes through these 2 points? Yes, that's stat edit. So we're going to go in stat. Let's clear our list this time. We're going to clear L1, and we want to clear L2. There we go. So L1, L2, L1, L2. 4, 2, and then 0. Oh, no. Let's try that again. And -2. Stat calc, we want to do number 4. And so here's our equation, y equals, the a is the slope, so that's the number that goes in front of x. The b is the y-intercept. Now, the intentions of this problem was to have an answer choice, we'll say, let's call it A, to have it look like this, -1x plus y equals -2. Well, how could I tell that A is the same as what we have in yellow? Well, you would have to get y by itself, and if you did that, you could split this guy up, and if you move 1x, that negative 1x to the other side, you would be adding, right? And so if I add 1x over here, then I'll be left with y equals 1x, that's minus 2, minus 2. And you'll see what we have in blue matches up to what we have in yellow. Now there's another way you could do this. We know our answer is A, right, in red. But if you look right here, they give me inputs and outputs. They give me x and y, x and y. We can actually take this first coordinate and store that to x and y, and let's type it in the calculator right here and see if it comes out to be -2. Let's try that. So here we go. Let's take 4 and store it to x. We're going to take 2, our output, 2, store it to y. Let's type in this guy right here, -1x plus y. Let's see if that gives me an answer of -2. And it does. But it has to also work for this coordinate as well, 0, -2. So take 0 and store it to x. Take -2 and store it to y. Let's type in this guy right here, this -x plus y. Instead of typing that in, I'm just going to copy it. And when I hit enter, it should give me a value of -2. And it does. We're 100% correct. So there's two ways you can do that particular problem. 21, let's just get down to the question. What is the slope of the graph of this equation? The first thing I'm going to do is rewrite this in terms of x and y. So this would be y equals, I'm going to put the 45h, I'm going to go y equals 45x, and then 85 plus 85. So let's dissect this equation. This is the y-intercept. This is where the graph starts. And then 45, that means you go up 45 and over 1, up 45 and over 1. So this graph, if you look at the problem and you read it, it's talking about the cost for repairs. So it's $85. The repairs start at 85 bucks, and then for 1 hour it's $45. For 2 hours it's going to be another 45. For 3 hours it's another 45. And so they want to know, what does 45 represent? Well, that represents the cost per hour. So your answer is B. 22, which of the following is the correct solution for the inequality? We have to solve for x. Well, if you look at the symbol here, it's greater than or equal. This one does not even have an equal sign, so we're going to cross out A. Let's get x by itself. We're going to move everything to the right. Start doing opposites. 14 becomes minus, and so it'll become minus over here. Bring down -7x. We'll bring down our inequality sign. 35 minus 14 is 21. Our last step is to divide by a negative. What happens when you divide by a negative when you're solving inequalities? That's right, this sign is going to change direction, is going to flip in another direction. And then I'll divide this by -7. 21 divided by -7 is -3. And so our answer is C. Now you could have just looked at this problem up at the top right here and said, my last step is to divide by a negative. Well, if my last step is to divide by a negative right here, I know that the sign has to flip direction, and C is the only other one that has the sign flipping direction. So a couple strategies there. 23, so we're trying to match up which one of these graphs goes with this inequality. Let's start with our sign. Our sign is a less than, which means it's going to be dashed. It cannot be D, because that's solid. And if you look at the number in front of y, it's positive, which means the sign is going to stay this way. We would say this as greater. Greater means you are going to shade above. So we need to find one that has shading above. Well, this one has shading above the line, and this one also has shading above the line. So it cannot be B. The question is, which one of these is it? Is it A or C? These are two different lines. One of them has a positive slope, one of them has a negative slope. So let's get y by itself. So you have x plus 4y is greater than -8. I'm going to split this up, move x to the other side. X is going to be negative. Bring down your 4y, and then your last step is to divide by 4, divide this by 4, and divide this by 4. Well, look, if I put a little 1 here, that's negative 1 over 4. That tells me this is a negative slope. That means the line has to be a negative sloping line, which is going to be C. 24, blah, blah, blah. What's the slope? So we're going to pick 2 points that are on the grid. We're going to pick this point here, it's on the grid. We're going to pick this point here on the grid. It's positive, which means you're going to go up 1, and then you are going to run always to the right. 1, 2, 3. Go up 1 and then run 1, 2, 3. Up 1 and then 1, 2, 3. So our slope is rise over run. There you go. Be careful, sometimes they like to change the scale. This one they're counting by ones, and this one down here they're counting by ones. But be careful, sometimes they like to go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And you wouldn't be going up 1, you would be going up 2. So watch your intervals. Be really careful with that problem. Johnny joined an online DVD rental site that charges $2.99 for each movie, so it's $2.99 for one, and then another $2.99, and another $2.99. Well, we could write that as $2.99 times the number of movies that he might rent, and there's a flat monthly fee of $5.98. So if he rents 0 movies, which means he rents nothing, he still pays $5.98. So you just match up the equation that represents that. Your answer is D.